I, 3 to F, never thought I'd be the type of person to write something like this. But here we are. I'm married to Ethan, 3-5M. We've been together for 7 years, married for 4. On paper, we're perfect. He's stable, responsible, owns his own small construction company, and is the type of man every woman's parents would approve of. My friends have always envied me for landing a good one, and for a long time, I believed I was happy, or maybe I convinced myself I was. We have a nice townhouse in a safe neighborhood, 2 cats, and a shared savings account for a future we've carefully planned, kids in a few years, maybe a bigger house. Everything predictable. It all started 2 years ago, when my company sent me to a 3-day marketing conference in Chicago. I wasn't particularly excited about it, but I figured it would be a nice change of scenery. That's where I met Liam. He was one of the guest speakers, charismatic, with that effortless confidence that makes you lean in when he talks. He wasn't movie star handsome, but he had this presence that made every interaction feel like it was just between you and him. After his presentation, I ended up at the same networking mixer. We talked for maybe 15 minutes, about our jobs, about how boring conferences could be, about his love for late-night walks in new cities. It was harmless, or so I thought. The next night, a group of us went out for drinks. Somehow, by the end of the evening, it was just him and me left. We wandered the streets, talking about everything from childhood dreams to the little fears we never admit to anyone. I told him about my art, something I used to do all the time before work and marriage consumed me. He told me about the year he spent backpacking across Europe after college, living in cheap hostels and writing terrible poetry. When we reached my hotel, there was this long, loaded pause. He didn't lean in to kiss me, but his hand brushed mine, and it felt electric. I went upstairs without anything happening, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. After I got home, I told myself it was just a conference crush, something that would fade. But then he messaged me on LinkedIn, thanking me for one of the best conversations he'd had in a long time. That led to more messages, then emails, then late-night phone calls. For months, it was purely emotional. We talked about everything we couldn't say to the people in our daily lives. He knew about my frustrations with Ethan, how he was so focused on work and future plans that he sometimes forgot to be present. I knew about Liam's failed engagement and how he feared he'd never find someone who truly got him. I didn't see him again until almost a year later. He invited me to meet him in New York, where he was speaking at another event. I told Ethan it was a work trip, which wasn't entirely a lie. But when I saw Liam again, it was like no time had passed. That night, after dinner, we ended up in his hotel room. I wish I could say I stopped it, that I thought of Ethan, that I walked away. But I didn't, and that was the start of my second life, one my husband knows nothing about. The first time we slept together, it was like every bit of restraint we'd shown over the past year just shattered. We didn't talk about what it meant or what would happen next, only that we didn't want it to end. When I got back home, I felt different. Not just guilty, though that was definitely there, but alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. I'd catch myself smiling at nothing, replaying moments in my head while Ethan talked about a new contract his company landed. I started wearing lingerie again, not for my husband, but for the nights I knew Liam and I would see each other. It didn't stay as a one-time thing. Every couple of months, we'd find a reason to be in the same city, him for a conference, me for a training seminar, or client meeting. I became good at fabricating schedules, at weaving lies into my work calendar so they appeared seamless. I kept receipts separate, used my personal credit card for anything questionable, and made sure my phone's notifications were locked down. Liam and I never said, "I love you." That was our unspoken rule. It wasn't about building a future together. It was about the moments we carved out from our separate lives. We'd meet in hotels and spend hours just talking before we even touched each other. He made me feel seen in a way Ethan never did anymore, but there was danger in how comfortable it became. At first, I thought I could control it, that I could keep my marriage intact while having this other piece of myself. But it started bleeding into my real life. I'd compare Ethan to Liam constantly. When Ethan was distant or distracted, I'd find myself texting Liam under the dinner table. It escalated last winter, when Liam invited me to spend an entire weekend with him, in a cabin upstate. It was the first time it felt like something more than stolen hours in hotel rooms. We cooked together, went hiking, fell asleep on the couch in front of the fire. For the first time, I let myself imagine what life would be like if I didn't go home. That thought scared me more than anything. When I got back, Ethan noticed something. He asked if I was seeing someone else, in a joking way, but I laughed it off. He dropped it, but I could see it in his eyes, this tiny seed of suspicion. And now, things are starting to spiral. Liam has been talking about wanting more from me, Not necessarily to be together, but to see each other more often, to take bigger risks. Last week, he suggested we go away for a full week to Europe. I told him I couldn't possibly make up that kind of story for Ethan. He said, maybe it's time you stop making up stories. I don't know if he meant for me to leave my husband, or if it was just a careless remark, but it's been stuck in my head ever since. Because for the first time, I'm starting to wonder, what if I actually did? The problem with living two lives is that eventually, the cracks start to show. It began with little things. I'd forget details I told Ethan, mixing up where I said I was on a certain day, or accidentally mentioning a restaurant I'd been to with Liam as if I'd gone with coworkers. Ethan never called me out directly, but I could tell he was storing these moments away in his mind. One night, while I was in the shower, Ethan's voice startled me. "Who's Liam?" he asked from the doorway. I froze. I had mentioned Liam once, months ago, as a guy from a conference. When Ethan saw his name pop up on my phone, I'd told him it was work-related, nothing else, but I hadn't expected him to remember. I kept my voice steady and said, "He's just a contact from the marketing conference last year." "Why?" Ethan shrugged, but I could see him studying me. "I saw you smiling at your phone earlier." His name popped up again. That night, I deleted every message chain with Liam and told him we had to be more careful. He laughed, said, "You're getting paranoid." But he didn't have a husband to come home to. The tension with Ethan grew. He wasn't confrontational, but he started asking more questions about my work trips. He'd offered to drive me to the airport, or pick me up, which I always declined. I told Liam we needed to cool things down for a bit, but he didn't like that. He said he didn't want to be a side note in my life anymore. Then, 2 months ago, something happened that shook me. I was on a 3-day trip to Denver. Ethan thought I was attending a product training workshop. In reality, I was with Liam. On the last night, as we were coming back to the hotel from dinner, I saw someone who looked exactly like one of Ethan's subcontractors from his construction business. My blood went cold. I pulled Liam into a side street, pretending I wanted to look at some art in a shop window. The man didn't seem to notice me, but all night I couldn't shake the feeling. If it was him, if word got back to Ethan, my life as I knew it would explode. When I got home, Ethan seemed normal, almost too normal. But a few days later, he asked, "How is Denver?" Learn a lot, in this calm, even tone that made my stomach knot. Now, Liam's pushing harder than ever for me to make a decision. He says if I keep living like this, I'll lose both of them. He's probably right. But when I try to picture leaving Ethan, it's like staring into a black void. I don't know what would happen, financially, emotionally, socially. And yet, every time I'm with Liam, it feels like breathing for the first time in years. Last night, lying next to Ethan, I thought about telling him everything, just ripping the bandage off and letting the pieces fall where they may. But then he rolled over, put his arm around me in his sleep, and whispered my name. And I realize I might be too much of a coward to ever do it, but something tells me the choice won't be mine for much longer. 2 weeks after that night, the unraveling began. It was a Thursday morning, and I was in the kitchen making coffee when Ethan walked in, holding my phone. He'd never gone through my things before, so my first instinct was disbelief. "Your phone kept buzzing," he said, his voice unreadable. I thought it might be important. He placed it on the counter and walked out without another word. My hands shook as I unlocked the screen. There it was, a single notification from Liam. "Can't stop thinking about last night. I miss you already." It wasn't a full-blown confession, but it was enough. I followed Ethan into the living room, my mind scrambling for an explanation. "It's not what it looks like," I blurted, hating how cliché it sounded. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I knew he already knew. "How long?" he asked quietly. I wanted to lie. God, I wanted to lie. But the weight of months of deception pressed down, and I just broke. "Over a year," I whispered. Ethan didn't yell. He didn't throw anything or call me names. He just sat there, hands clasped together, staring at the floor. "Do you love him?" That question caught me off guard because I didn't have an answer. I didn't think I loved Liam, but I couldn't deny what I felt for him either. "It's not about love," I said finally. "It's about feeling alive again." He flinched like I'd hit him. "So I've just been killing you all this time." The rest of that day was a blur. Ethan packed a bag and went to stay with his brother. He told me he needed space to think. I called Liam in a panic, expecting him to reassure me, to tell me it would be okay. Instead, he was silent for a long moment, before saying, "Well, maybe this is the push we needed." But I wasn't sure if "we" was even real anymore. That night, I walked through the house alone. Every photo on the wall, every mug in the cupboard, every little dent in the furniture felt like a reminder of the life I'd just set on fire. And for what? A handful of weekends. A few nights in hotel rooms. The next morning, Ethan sent me a text, we'll talk on Sunday. I don't know what that means. Divorce papers. A chance to explain. An ultimatum. But one thing is certain, my secret life isn't secret anymore. Sunday came, and I felt like I was walking toward a firing squad. I spent the morning pacing, trying to imagine every possible version of the conversation Ethan and I might have. In every scenario, it ended badly. When his car pulled into the driveway, my stomach twisted so hard I thought I might throw up. He walked in, calm but distant, like someone meeting a stranger to discuss business. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. I talked to a lawyer, he said. She told me I have options. But before I make any decisions, I want to hear why. It wasn't an angry demand, it was worse. It was the voice of someone who'd already been broken and was now just cataloging the damage. I told him everything. About the conference, about the late-night calls, about the first time in New York. I left nothing out except the parts that would hurt for no reason, the little details that had been mine and Liam's alone. Ethan listened in silence, only occasionally nodding, as if confirming what he'd already pieced together. When I was done, he leaned back, folded his arms, and asked, "Do you still want to be with him?" It was the same question from before, but now the stakes were real. And for the first time, I realized I didn't actually know. Liam had been my escape, my spark, but could he be my life? I don't know, I admitted. Ethan exhaled slowly. Then maybe we're already done. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table. Liam's name lit up the screen. Ethan's eyes flicked to it, then back to me. "Answer it," he said. I froze. "What?" "Answer it. Put it on speaker." My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear myself as I hit the button. "Hello." "Hey." Liam's voice came through, casual and warm, like nothing was wrong. "I was thinking maybe I could come to your place tonight. We could talk, figure out what's next." Ethan's expression didn't change. "Tell him I'm here." I couldn't. My throat locked up. Ethan leaned forward. "Tell him, Liam." My voice cracked. "Ethan's here. He knows." There was a long, suffocating silence on the line. Then Liam said, "Okay, I'll call you later," and hung up. Ethan stood. "That tells me everything I need to know." He grabbed his keys, paused at the door, and said, "You didn't just lose me. You lost the person you thought he was, too." The sound of the door closing echoed through the house. I haven't heard from Ethan since. And Liam. He hasn't called back. For the first time in 2 years, I'm truly alone. And maybe that's the punishment I deserve. It's been 4 months since that Sunday. Ethan filed for divorce 2 weeks after he walked out. No yelling, no long, messy fights. Just paperwork and quiet logistics. The house was sold quickly. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with creaky floors and a view of the alley behind a diner. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. At first, I thought Liam would fill the gap Ethan left. I imagined he'd show up at my new place, maybe even help me move in. Instead, our contact dwindled to occasional texts, then nothing. The last message I sent him was a short "hope you're doing well." He never replied. The silence forced me to confront something ugly. That Liam had been a fantasy. We'd both been using each other to escape the monotony and disappointments of our real lives. The moment those real lives were gone, so was the magic. People always talk about affairs in terms of passion and danger, but no one tells you about the aftermath. About sitting alone in a cheap apartment with second-hand furniture, staring at a phone that doesn't ring. About the gnawing ache of realizing you burned your life down for something that was never going to last. I've started therapy. My therapist doesn't let me get away with blaming Ethan for the parts of our marriage that felt empty. She makes me look at the choices I made, every text I sent, every lie I told, every night I slipped into another man's bed knowing exactly what it meant. Sometimes I dream about Ethan. In the dreams, he's still my husband, and I'm still lying, and I wake up with my heart racing. Other times, I see him across a crowded street in real life, just a flash of him getting into his truck, or walking into a store, and I wonder if he ever thinks about me at all. Liam is a ghost now. I don't know where he is, who he's with, or if he's telling someone else the same stories he once told me. I used to want answers. Now I think I'm better off without them. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that you can build an entire secret life, but sooner or later, you have to live with yourself in the daylight. And that's the hardest part. This gives the story a full arc: seduction, double life, exposure, collapse, and quiet aftermath. Exactly like a long-form Reddit confession people can't stop reading.